Today we're putting the Kamado Joe Classic 3 through the Barbecue Lab series of tests to help you decide whether it's worth the leap to put one of these beauties in your backyard. We published our head-to-head roundup of 7 different Kamado grills this last week, and we heard you in the comments that you wanted to see the Kamado Joe Classic 3. Let's start by taking a look at how this cooker is designed and how it's different than many others in the category. The first is, when you look at the latch on this grill, I've never seen a Kamado that's really like it. The latch on this grill is a push button latch. You push it and it pops and springs open. So nice and easy to lift lid. I can't believe how easy this thing is to lift. Let's see, can I do it with one pinky finger? Absolutely, so easy. I can do it with one pinky finger. I can't wait to run the test on this thing where we gotta see how much weight it takes, because I'm guessing it's gonna be less than a pound. It's pretty impressive. But one of the things I want to go ahead and make sure that I make note of is when you pop it open, it springs open a little bit. But look at this gasket here. This is something else. In comparison to almost any other Kamado we've looked at, nothing has a gasket like this. This thing is impressive. And it's got a little spring to it, so you know when you close it, it's going to actually close tight. And you can see how tight that closes. That is something I'm really going to love playing with here on the Kamado Joe Classic 3. If we look at the grate system is a half moon grate system. So you can see half moon here, and it is totally usable at 3 different heights. You can see down here, this is the first height. Right now the slow roller is in the way, but the first height is here, second height is here, third height is here. It's made it so that you can put this on a lower height like this and go lower on that side, and then you can go higher on this next side, which is here, and you can cook at different heights and different uses. You could put a deflector on one side. You could go indirect on one side, direct on the other. So I like this divided grate system. I really do wish these were thicker grates. If you actually compare this to many of the other grates that we have had on the channel, I wish that they had thicker grates on the Kamado Joe, but I understand from the divide and conquer system why they're lighter, since you're moving them around quite a bit. All right, if we take those off, the next thing in is the slow roller. Now the slow roller is something that if you haven't ever seen it, it's something that you ought to see, because basically what it does is it causes your smoke to come up the side of your firebox, to roll up the side of this, and then it gets pushed out through the walls or through the top of the slow roller around this little gap that we have around the side. I can fit a pinky in there. That's how big the gap is there. It's about a pinky's depth. But the slow roller is their indirect cooking system, which gives you the ability to cook low and slow on the Classic 3. You can take this whole entire grate system out over the top of the slow roller. You can take the slow roller itself out. It comes out in 3 pieces. Piece 1 is the top. Piece 2 is the ring underneath. And then piece 3 is this piece that sits right directly on top of the firebox. Underneath the slow roller, you see the ash kicker basket or the ash shaker basket. I'm not sure the exact terminology that they use over at Kamado Joe for that one, but it is a divided basket. So if you look, you have a divider here, and that can make it so you can put charcoal in one half and not charcoal in the other half. So you can run it divided or you can run it not divided. It's up to you. We'll show you in a little bit how this basket works to clean things. Underneath that, we have the ash cleaning system. And if you look, there are some sloped pieces of metal on the left and the right, and there's a drawer in between. I like this design because it makes it so that all of the ash rolls down into the middle and is pulled out with the handy little ashtray. And the ashtray slotted on the front to allow air in, but solid on the sides to keep ash in here so you can pull it out. Now, the idea is you take this, clean it out each time you cook, stick it back inside, and then you have a ash cleaning system to make it easy every time you use your Kamado Joe without having to pull out everything inside. Having to pull everything out of your grill to clean it is kind of a bummer. I like the way that they've designed this. In just a second, I'm going to show you 5 different cooks that we did on the Classic 3 as a part of our testing. But if you're in the market for a Classic 3, I want you to make sure that you check the links in the description below. We keep those updated with the best prices to make sure that you can save some money when you're out to buy your next Kamado. Pricing is always changing, and we keep track of the best prices for you, so make sure you check those links out before you make a purchase. Let's talk about the Kamado Joe Cart for a second. When you look at a Kamado, one of the things that you want to think about is how easy is this thing to move around. Now, we have a paver patio here. So these are all pavers, that they are multi-textured, so they're not super flat. So let's look at what it looks like to move this Kamado on this type of a patio. And if I pull it around, it's easy to pull, not super hard. But one of the rules is the right way to move a Kamado is not to push a Kamado. You never want to push a Kamado. That's because if a wheel gets stuck, it falls over and it shatters. You always want to pull a Kamado. And when I pull a Kamado, I like to pull from the hinge in the back. So pulling from the hinge in the back, really easy to move this around on a paver patio. Now, one of the things I want to talk about are the wheels and how they lock. If you go ahead and put your foot on there, you can lock a wheel just like this. You can lock a wheel just like that. Will it move with the locked wheels? No, it is very stable with those locked wheels. One of the things that's always frustrating is a grill that's hard to unlock. So let's see, how hard is this grill to unlock? It's a kick, and it's unlocked. I love how easy these unlock in addition to how easy they lock. Just a simple kick on top and they unlock. The cart itself is something else I want to point out. You can see that this cart is metal. It's made of painted metal, and it's rather easy to put together. It was, I think, somewhere around 16 different bolts to put the thing together, but I'm quite happy with how the cart works. The only thing I would say is that if you look here, you can see that the cart only comes up the bottom, say 8 to 10 inches of the Kamado. It doesn't come all the way up to the top. So if you are getting tipsy with the Kamado by pushing it instead of pulling it on accident, you could potentially tip this thing because it doesn't fully come up as high as I'd like to see it potentially come up on the grill. But overall, really like the cart as long as you follow good Kamado moving etiquette, which is pulling it by the hinge instead of pushing it. I really don't recommend pulling it by the handle either. That's not a great option because you can mess up your alignment. But as long as you're following that, the cart works great. All right, it's time for the question of the day. If you're thinking about getting a Kamado, are you wanting to get it with a cart to put on your back patio? Or are you thinking about getting it without a cart and without shelves to put in your outdoor kitchen build? Let us know down in the comments which use you're thinking about it for, and then let's continue the conversation down in the comments and talk about Kamados and the best ones to get to fit your lifestyle and the way that you like to cook. Now, one thing we haven't talked about yet are the side shelves. If I get my microphone close here, you can hear when I knock on them. Those are metal side shelves. So they are quite robust. They're really easy to work with. You just go ahead and pull them back and they hinge down. You can pull them back up, push them in, and they hinge forward. Now, how sturdy are they? They're sturdy. I mean, I have no issue putting any kind of a tray of food or anything like that on here. They're easy to take off as well. Just slide them like this, and you can take them off. Easy to use, quite functional as well. And here on the front, you have 4 different tool hooks to be able to hang your spatulas, your tongs, anything like that that you might be able to use here on the grill. I like the functionality of these shelves. Another thing I want to make sure that I talk about is this hinge system. If you look here at the hinge, you can see that you have a nut on a threaded bolt that is going to give you the tension adjustment on the Kamado Joe. One of the things you really can't see is the hinge below here, which is this massive spring underneath the grill. Now, this is what allows this lid to be so easy to lift. So I'm gonna ask the camera to back out, and let's show again how easy this is to lift. So it's as easy as this, and then one finger, you can lift it up. So easy compared to everything else on the market. I'm gonna ask Melissa to bring the camera around to the hinge side and show the hinge what it looks like when you lift it up. So I'll go ahead and release the lid, and I'll go ahead and lift it up. That's what it looks like. But you can see how easy this thing is to lift using the hinge on the Kamado Joe, and that's a real standout feature on this grill. By the way, if you're getting value out of this video, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe if you'd like to see other future content just like this. Even though the Kamado Joe was absent from our head-to-head testing last week, we were still able to run it through the same 3 cooking tests as soon as it arrived at the lab this week. Thankfully, we had the same New York strip, chicken drumsticks, and chuck roast from Porter Road waiting in the freezer until it showed up. But stick with us because we're running 2 additional cooking tests coming up that are staples of American barbecue. First up was the New York strip steak cook, and if you watched the video last week, you already know the drill. We fire the Kamado Joe up to 500 degrees, we place the steak down on the grates, set at the mid-level height on a bias, and set a timer for 90 seconds. After a 45-degree angle rotation and 90 more seconds, this is what the sear looked like on the steak after we flipped it. And after 2 more 90-second rotations on the backside, this is what the steak looked like when it came off the grill. And I just have to say, that New York strip was just as delicious the 8th time as it was on the 7 previous grills last week. Next, we did the hot, fast, and indirect cook of chicken drumsticks from Porter Road. Those went on to the Kamado Joe running 425 degrees with the slow roller in place. After about 30 minutes, this is what the drumsticks look like on the Kamado Joe Classic 3. For our low and slow test, we smoked a Porter Road chuck roast indirectly using the slow roller, keeping the Kamado Joe set around 250 degrees. This is how the chuck roast was looking when it was time to wrap, and this is what it looked like when it was all finished. Now, beef fillet is one of my favorite things to cook for special events, and I love the 2-zone cooking method when I'm doing them on a Kamado. I set up the cook by creating a direct cooking zone on one side and an indirect cooking zone on the other, and I started by bringing the steak up to temperature on the indirect side until we hit about 110 degrees internal. At that point, I moved the steak to the direct side where I seared the steak to get the crust I wanted, and I was still able to pull it off for that medium to medium rare doneness. Just delicious and easy with the cooking options available on the Classic 3. For a new test, we wanted to smoke a rack of baby back ribs on the Kamado Joe Classic 3. To start, I'm cutting the ribs in half so that I can keep the entire rack over the slow roller without exposing parts of the rib to the deflected direct heat. I added some pecan wood chunks to the fire for some smoke and set the grill to 250 degrees Fahrenheit. After about 3 hours, here's how the ribs looked before we wrapped them, and we used a standard competition style wrap with butter, brown sugar, and honey. And after another 60 to 90 minutes on the grill, here's what the ribs looked like when we pulled them out of the wrap. Even without sauce, these ribs looked and tasted incredible. We're done with all the cooks, and we have this much charcoal remaining after our last cook. I love using lump charcoal for that reason. All we need to do now is clean out the ash basket. And one of the things I really like about the Kamado Joe is that you can lift up this ash basket and you can shake it around, and you really knock off all of the ash of the charcoal so you can use it for the next cook. Now, if you look down below, you can see there's quite a bit of ash, but there's a nice ash tray in the bottom. All I do is I take my nice gloves here, and I'm gonna go ahead and just knock off the ash from the sides, knock it off from here, down into the tray. I'm gonna go ahead and take the lid off of our ash bucket that we use here at the lab. And all I need to do is take out this ash drawer. So I'm just gonna go ahead and pull out this whole entire ash drawer, pull it out down here. And there I have my whole entire ash drawer that I can pour right into the ash. And when I go and put it back in, it's going to go ahead and pick up anything that I missed. So I can put it back in, go for a second trip, dump it out, and I am ready for my next cook. If you haven't yet watched the 7 Kamado Roundup that we shot that's here on the channel, make sure that you check out this link up here in the card as well as down in the description below. I know you're gonna love that video to check out all the Kamado options that are available for your backyard patio or your outdoor kitchen. Now that you've seen a review on all 8 Kamados, the question is, which 2 do you think we should put in our outdoor kitchen? We have room for 2 on 2 different Kamado drawers, so let us know down in the comments which 2 you think we should put in the outdoor kitchen and shoot more content on. I'm David, behind the camera is Melissa. We're here with the Barbecue Lab, and we will see you on the next one.